The heart of the letter unveiling Paul's purpose. Paul's second letter to the Corinthians offers a raw and intimate glimpse into the life of an apostle. This letter, filled with passion and urgency, reveals the challenges and triumphs of spreading the gospel in a resistant world. Paul seeks to defend his ministry, address divisions, and reaffirm his love for his converts. In 2 Corinthians 11, verses 23 to 28, Paul lays bare the hardships he has endured for Christ. These verses are a testament to Paul's unwavering commitment and a reminder that following Christ often comes at a cost. Paul's example stands as a beacon of hope and inspiration for believers of all ages. The power of weakness, setting the stage for 2 Corinthians 11, verses 23 to 28. Paul defends his apostleship against those who question his authority. These individuals, whom Paul refers to as super-apostles, boast of their own accomplishments, attempting to undermine Paul. Paul introduces the concept of boasting in weakness, challenging the prevailing wisdom of his day. He embraces his weaknesses, recognizing them as opportunities for God's power to be displayed. True strength lies not in human ability, but in reliance on God's grace. This paradoxical approach sets the stage for the powerful enumeration of Paul's trials in verses 23 to 28. A question of ministry. Unveiling the heart of Paul's defense. Paul's defense begins with a pointed rhetorical question. Are they ministers of Christ? The super-apostles challenge Paul's authority, boasting of their own accomplishments. Paul's question exposes the hollowness of their claims. He contrasts their self-serving motives with the true marks of authentic ministry: humility, sacrifice, and devotion to Christ. This question serves as the springboard for Paul's enumeration of his own trials and tribulations. Paul invites the Corinthians to compare his life and ministry with the superficial boasts of his detractors. The ironic boast, redefining strength in weakness. Paul continues with a striking statement: I speak as a fool, I am more. He subverts cultural norms by embracing his own weaknesses. Paul boasts not in his abilities, but in his sufferings and dependence on God's grace. This boasting exposes the shallowness of worldly standards and highlights the transformative power of God's grace. True strength is found in reliance on God, not human effort. This approach serves as a powerful antidote to the self-promotion of the super-apostles. More than words, Paul's trials as proof of his ministry. Paul lists his credentials in terms of suffering and hardship endured for the gospel, in labors more abundant, in stripes above measure, in prisons more frequent, in deaths oft. These words paint a vivid picture of the relentless persecution Paul faced. Paul's trials are tangible evidence of his ministry and his unwavering devotion to Christ. He presents these sufferings as proof of his authenticity as an apostle. His willingness to endure such hardships contrasts with the self-serving motives of the super-apostles. Measuring up the super-apostles' shallow standard. Paul's litany of suffering indicts the super-apostles' shallow understanding of ministry. While they boast of their accomplishments, Paul points to his sufferings as the true marks of his apostleship. He demonstrates that true greatness is found in humility, service, and a willingness to embrace suffering for the gospel. This juxtaposition challenges believers to examine the criteria by which they evaluate spiritual leadership. A catalogue of suffering unveiling the brutality faced. Paul provides a harrowing inventory of his sufferings in 2 Corinthians, November 24 to 25. Of the Jews, 5 times received I 40 stripes save one. Thrice was I beaten with rods, once was I stoned, thrice I suffered shipwreck. A night and a day I have been in the deep. Each hardship speaks of pain, humiliation, and a constant proximity to death. This is not a man seeking sympathy, but a seasoned soldier laying bare his battle scars. Paul's unwavering resolve and conviction shine through his words. Beaten and broken, exploring the significance of the 40 stripes save one. Paul Paul's first listed hardship speaks volumes about the cultural and religious tensions he navigated. 39 lashes were administered with a whip embedded with sharp pieces of bone and metal. To endure this once was excruciating. To have undergone it 5 times speaks volumes about the depth of Jewish opposition Paul faced. The detail, save one, highlights the paradoxical nature of Paul's persecution. This underscores the intense animosity directed towards early Jewish Christians. Thrice shipwrecked, navigating the perils of the sea. Paul's mention of being thrice shipwrecked transports us to the dangers of ancient sea travel. In the 1st century, sea voyages were fraught with peril. To survive even one shipwreck was a testament to resilience. To have endured 3 speaks volumes about the risks Paul faced. The terror of being tossed about by the sea and the struggle for survival left an indelible mark on Paul. His willingness to set sail again and again speaks to his unwavering dedication to spreading the gospel. A night and a day in the deep, confronting mortality in the depths. The phrase, "a night and a day I have been in the deep," plunges us into Paul's most harrowing maritime experience. This was a full immersion in the terrifying embrace of the sea. Paul stared death in the face for an agonizing 24 hours. Yet he emerged from the depths bearing the scars of that ordeal, a testament to his tenacious grip on life and faith. A life on the road, unveiling the perils of travel in the ancient world. Paul's narrative shifts to the constant dangers he faced in verses 26 and 27. In journeyings often, in perils of waters, in perils of robbers, in perils by mine own countrymen, in perils by the heathen, in perils in the city, in perils in the wilderness, in perils in the sea, in perils among false brethren. Paul paints a vivid picture of the precarious nature of travel in the ancient world. Journeys involved traversing treacherous mountain passes, navigating unpredictable rivers, and braving desolate wilderness. Paul's words transport us to a world where safety was a luxury and danger a constant companion. Rivers, robbers, and false brothers. Dissecting the dangers of Paul's mission, Paul's list of perils reveals the layered threats he faced. There were the obvious dangers of travel, perils of waters and perils of robbers. For Paul, these dangers were amplified by his mission. His message often made him a target, facing opposition from his own people and betrayal within Christian communities. Paul's perseverance in the face of these threats underscores his unwavering dedication to his calling. Perils from within and without, the two-pronged threat to Paul's ministry. The perils Paul faced weren't just geographical or circumstantial. They were deeply personal and spiritual as well. He endured perils in the city, likely referring to the hostility he encountered in urban centers, places where his message often clashed with established religious and political powers. He also faced perils in the wilderness, a reminder that even in solitude he was not immune to danger, whether from the elements, wild animals, or those who sought to silence him. The most poignant perils, however, were those inflicted by his own people and those within the Christian community. The perils by mine own countrymen speak of the deep rift that existed between Paul and those who rejected his message of Jesus as the Messiah. These were not simply theological debates, they were deeply personal attacks, fueled by anger, resentment, and a sense of betrayal. Equally devastating were the perils among false brethren. These were individuals who, while claiming to follow Christ, sowed discord, spread false teachings, and actively worked against Paul's ministry. Section 4. The cost of discipleship, embracing the challenges of following Christ. Paul's litany of perils in 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verses 26 to 27 serves as a sobering reminder of the cost of discipleship. It shatters any romantic notions of following Christ as a comfortable, risk-free endeavor. Paul's life, marked by constant danger and hardship, stands in stark contrast to the prosperity gospel often peddled today, a message that equates material wealth and comfort with God's blessing. Paul's experiences challenge us to confront the reality that following Christ often involves embracing discomfort, risk, and even suffering. It calls us to count the cost, to ask ourselves if we are willing to endure hardship, rejection, and even persecution for the sake of the gospel. This is not to suggest that suffering is inherently virtuous or that God delights in our pain. Rather, it is a recognition that in a world hostile to the message of Christ, those who choose to follow him will inevitably face opposition and trials. Section 1. Beyond personal peril, the weight of pastoral care. Paul's catalogue of suffering reaches a crescendo in verse 28, where he shifts from the physical dangers he's endured to a deeper, more pervasive kind of anguish. Beside those things that are without, that which cometh upon me daily, the care of all the churches. Here we glimpse a different dimension of Paul's hardship, one that transcends the physical and emotional toll of persecution. This is the burden of leadership, the weight of responsibility for the spiritual well-being of others. Paul, in his role as an apostle, carried the weight of all the churches on his shoulders, a burden that pressed upon him daily, adding a layer of anxiety and exhaustion to his already demanding life. This verse reveals the depth of Paul's pastoral heart. He wasn't merely a theological powerhouse, a charismatic preacher, or a fearless missionary. He was a shepherd who cared deeply for his flock, even those churches he'd never met personally. Each report of conflict, each rumor of false teaching, each instance of backsliding weighed heavily on his soul. The very success of his mission, the rapid spread of the gospel and the formation of new churches, only added to his burden, multiplying his responsibilities and amplifying his anxieties. Section 2. A heart aflame, Paul's unwavering love for the churches. Paul's description of his daily anxiety for the churches reveals a love that transcended mere duty or obligation. This wasn't a detached concern for the success of an organization. It was the deep, visceral love of a father for his children. Each church for Paul represented a group of individuals he'd poured his life into, men and women he'd guided, nurtured, and defended against those who sought to lead them astray. Their struggles were his struggles, their victories his joys, their failures his heartaches. This image of Paul, burdened yet unwavering in his love, offers a powerful challenge to modern readers, particularly those in positions of leadership. It reminds us that true leadership involves more than simply issuing directives or maintaining order. It requires a willingness to share in the burdens of those we serve, to enter into their struggles, and to offer ourselves as living sacrifices for their well-being. Paul's example calls us to lead not with a spirit of dominance or self-preservation, but with a heart aflame with love, a love willing to bear the weight of responsibility, even when it means experiencing daily anxiety and emotional exhaustion. Section 1. A legacy of endurance, embracing the lessons of Paul's trials. Paul's account in 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verses 23 to 28 is a testament to the strength of faith amidst adversity. These verses are a timeless message of resilience, dedication, and unwavering love in Christian living. Paul's journey, marked by beatings, shipwrecks, and opposition, shows that following Christ involves hardship. Trials are the expectation for those who live out their faith boldly. However, Paul's message is not one of despair. It's an invitation to find strength and purpose in struggles. Just as Paul found solace in Christ, we can draw resilience from eternal promises. His life reminds us that trials can refine our faith and deepen our compassion. Paul's commitment, despite obstacles, challenges our modern understanding of faith. He calls us to embrace the radical message of the gospel, marked by sacrifice and service. In a world that celebrates comfort, Paul's legacy illuminates a path of humility and commitment. His trials speak to the timeless challenges of living out our faith. By embracing Paul's lessons, we can endure and emerge from our trials strengthened and rooted in Christ's love.